Welcome to One Pink Plum Knits. My name is Anna and I am a knitter and sometimes knitwear designer based in Melbourne, Australia, and this is my knitting podcast. It's a space where I normally share what I've recently finished making, what I'd be like to be making next, and what I'm currently knitting. But this episode is a little bit different in that I've decided to share what I have made over the past year of 2025. It seems a little bit crazy to be thinking that we're already at the end of the year. It seems to have gone past so quickly, but also quite slowly in parts, as most years do. But when I look down at the carpet around me, I can see I'm surrounded by knits and that I have actually managed to knit quite a bit over the past 12 months. So I'm going to just take you through sort of the basics of what I've made, the garments. I've got a few accessories and one blanket. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail for each one, just to sort of give you a bit of an overview and what I liked most about the process or the wearing of each knit. But I'm very happy to answer any questions you might have about the things that I have made, and I'd love to hear what you've made over the past year as well, so please do share. You'll find further details like the names of the patterns, the yarn and that sort of thing I will put in the description box, which is just below the video where you click on the more button. So yeah, you'll see some of the extra details there, and if I forgot to mention something important like the name of one of the designs, you'll find it there, so you can look it up later in your own time. So for now, settle in. I imagine like us, the past few weeks have been very, very busy, so grab your knitting or your other craft, or if you're doing laundry, get your laundry, settle in, and I'll run you through what I've made over the past year. I do have some notes below because I'm sure I'm like some other people. Once I've made something, I tend to forget some of the details. I've tried to collate them all so I can talk you through it as we work through them. Let's start with what I'm wearing, which is actually was my first finished object of the year. I took this as a travel project over last summer, so I started at end of December of 2024 and finished it in the first part of 2025. It is the Calderon cardigan by Jared Flood. I chose to knit this one because I was after something that was quite simple to knit but still engaging, and this is an all over textured knit from the bottom up. And I thought it'd be perfect for keeping my interest, not being too boring on flights, road trips, when sitting around chatting with people, and this fit the bill, and I loved knitting it, and I have really, really enjoyed wearing it. So I'll be popping some footage in, if I haven't already, of each knit. So this one is a design, as I said, from Jared Flood, who had Brooklyn Tweed Yarn Company and was before and after that an amazing designer as well. I knit this one in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the colour Artifact. It is quite an oversized knit, and I went for the size 2, which gave me about 12 inches of positive ease, which was perfect for an all over textured open cardigan. It's in a broken garter rib texture, which, as I said, was really, really lovely to knit. It's done bottom up to the underarms, and then you work the back and the fronts and join them with a really lovely detail of a needle bind off on this up here on the top. You add in then the sleeves, which you've knit bottom up, you sort of set that in there. Very, very enjoyable. Did not mind the little bit of seaming that went into it, and I have worn this quite a lot. Being a woolen spun yarn, the Shelter is quite light to wear, but still cozy. It is actually one of my favorite yarns, so I was very, very devastated when they stopped producing the yarn earlier this year. But a good sub, if you wanted to make this, would be something like Durera Natura Gilead, or one of the Harrisville Designs yarns, which were produced out of the US as well. So after finishing this one over our summer break, I signed up for a test knit for Orlane Sucche, and completed my first colorwork sweater, which is this one here. I was pretty happy with this for my first colorwork design. It is just a round sort of circular yoked raglan where you're working the colorwork in the round before moving to work the body in the round, but just in the one color, picking up for the sleeves. I did enjoy this. I've realized I'm not a huge colorwork knitter, which is why after knitting for over 15 years, this is my first completed colorwork project of this size. I did enjoy it. I did find it was great beginner's colorwork in terms of it being quite simple to follow, not too long of floats. Very, very enjoyable. I knit it in Nutiden, which is an unspun yarn, and I holded 2 strands together. I went for the size that gave me about 7 inches of positive ease. So it's quite a boxy fit, as you'll be able to see in the photos. It is very, very warm, being the Nutiden held double and a sort of a more worsted bulky weight. So whilst I have worn it, it's something I can just wear in the very, very cold weather here, which there is not a lot of. I then went in for another test knit. I promised not all my knits of the year are test knits. And so my second project, being another garment, was the Foggy sweater. This is a design by Hiromi Nagasawa, who goes by the username of Plain Needleworks on Instagram. It's at a worsted weight gauge of 18 stitches. It's a top-down, drop shoulder raglan with deep arm. You can see there you've got a lovely shape to the sleeve, a nice amount of ribbing there. It is an oversized boxy fit. It's really, really cozy, and that is definitely because of my yarn choice as well. I went for a blown yarn that was produced by Gregoria Fibers, and that's their Cloud, and it's a mixture of alpaca, cotton and wool. I believe the cotton is the bit that the other fibers are blown into. I knit the size 2, which gave me about 10 inches of positive ease, I have worn this a lot, particularly great to throw on in the mornings when I'm running to yoga. I've worn it with jeans. I found it quite a versatile, cozy sweater. It's not something I would wear out if we're going for a very nice meal somewhere, but it is great for everyday wear. I particularly like the sleeve shape on it, which starts off quite large, being the drop shoulder and a balloon style, but does slightly taper in down to the cuff. So I've been very, very pleased to have that. So garment number 4 is one I have shared before on previous podcast episodes, and that is the Minou cardigan by Knitting Deer, who is Luisa Rehkopf. This is probably one of my most favourite knits of the year, and one that I have worn a lot, and for a few reasons. It was a favourite because of the process. So it's a top-down cardigan where you're starting with the back panel, you're working a bit at the front, and then you're joining to work the rest of the body backwards and forwards before starting on the sleeves and knitting the double knit button band. I loved working the combination of cables and half fisherman's rib, and it is absolutely stunning. I know sometimes when you do something that has an all over pattern, it can sort of weigh you down and you want to just finish the knit. This was definitely not the case with this one. I loved the process of making it, and I even found that sort of my gauge was a little bit off for the sleeves, so I started one of the sleeves again when I was about here, I suppose. Did not mind doing that again. it's the details on this one that make it, as well as the all over textured pattern. I love the shape of it. I did crop mine a little bit more than the designer suggested, just because I knew I would be wearing it with jeans and with dresses and skirts, and I thought maybe a little bit more of a cropped boxy shape would be perhaps a little bit nicer if I was wearing it out to restaurants for dinners, to the theatre, that sort of thing, and it definitely fit there. The yarn I chose for this is also contributed greatly to my enjoyment of knitting, but also wearing it. I paired Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the colour Puff, I think, with Sandnes Garn Tynn Silk Mohair, which is a lace weight. It's a combination of silk, mohair and wool. I can't remember what colour I used in the Tynn Silk Mohair, but I found it's created this lovely sort of creamy colour. It's not too white as you can, or too beige, as you can see. I'm holding it up against my shirt. Really perfect to pair with a lot in my wardrobe, and I loved it. I went for about 8 inches of positive ease in this garment, and I think that might be sort of my preferred amount of ease for a cardigan, that I'm not going for an overly oversized sort of look, but something that I can pair and dress up or down as needed. And I found when I've sort of compared across the garments that I've knit for the year, that seems to be the amount of ease I like best in a cardigan, but also in a sweater, unless I'm going for something really oversized. So probably one of my highlight knits of the year was this one. So I've got 3 more sweaters to share with you. So I have knit, I think 7 or 8 in total. Yeah, 8 in total. Okay. So the next 3 garments that I have to share are all Petiteknit designs, simple stockinette sweaters. I think the making of these coincided with quite a lot of secret design work that I was doing, and I think my head was taken up on that, and I was really just after comfort knits and basics that I needed in my wardrobe at this point in time. So I sort of left the lovely cable work that I did on the Minou cardigan behind, and moved on to some simpler things as my knitting brain was occupied elsewhere. So the first one I've done was actually for my son. It's a Monday sweater, which is just a very simple raglan top-down sweater. I knit this one for him in Cascade 220 in a really lovely heathered blue. He has worn this quite a bit. The pattern is written for a DK, but with children's knits, I find there is quite a lot of leeway for me, at least, in terms of I go for the fabric I'm after, more so than what's the recommended gauge or needle size, and just knit it until it fits them or is a bit bigger, which is what I've done for this one. I found this has worked really well for him in his wardrobe. He's been able to wear it with a whole range of different coloured pants, black, grey, brown, navy, green, and that was his sweater of the year. I do try and knit each of my kids one sweater each year, and they don't need a lot of sweaters as they are in uniform most of the week. The next sweater I knit was another petite knit sweater, but this time for me, and that was the cloud blouse, which is this one here. I've shared this before on the podcast. I think this has also been another one of my favorites, maybe my favorite basic sort of sweater that I knit for myself, and it's because of some of the details that are in it. It's knit top down, but you're starting with the back piece, working the front, and then joining those together and knitting in the round. It has a really lovely detail on the neck, where it's a little bit of a rib, and then and then a stockinette sort of a collar which rolls over on itself. It's probably the best way to say it. It has reasonably wide sleeves, and again the same sort of details are on the cuff and on the hem down the bottom and how it's finished. I found this to be a favourite because I've actually really loved the colour. It's not a colour I've knit a lot of in the past, but I found it worked quite well in my wardrobe, and I think it worked quite well with my complexion as well. I used Biches Le Petit lambswool and silk mohair in the dark burgundy grey colour, and I think that was a great combination. I love Biches yarns, and this combination is no exception. one of the other reasons I really loved it, besides the yarn choice that I made, is the details. I found this sort of a shoulder construction worked really well on me, and I found the lengths recommended and the size was perfect. I went for the size small, and I think this one has about 8 inches of ease, which I think is, again, that sweet spot for me in terms of ease for something that isn't that is somewhat fitted but not too fitted. I find that's really great. And the last sweater that I knit this year for me was one I actually finished quite some time ago, and that is another Monday sweater. Oh, my notes are flying everywhere. This is one I started in 2024 as I really craved a top-down raglan, and I finished it in the past few months. Lovely green shade. Here I've used Biches Le Petit lambswool that I reclaimed from another sweater, and I've held that with a strand of silk mohair that's hand dyed by Fibresmith, which is a local yarn dyer to me here in Melbourne. It's been a really great colour. I have worn this one quite a bit since I finished. Very soft with the yarn choice. I would definitely make more of these again, but I think I'm probably going to go with more of the cloud blouse first before I jump into another Monday sweater. So those are all of my sweater projects for the year. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 sweaters. Okay, I have 2 tees to share with you, and then I will talk you through some of the accessories that I made over the course of the year. So I'm not much of a summer knitwear maker, but I have a lot of friends that do, and they always look really good when I see them wear them. I'm often mid-year inspired by all the warmer weather knits that are coming out of Northern Hemisphere podcasters in their or Instagram content that's showing that. I'm like, I'd love to do that. I should do that. I live in a reasonably warm climate, but I don't often make them. Anyway, midway through the year, I knew that we had a couple of holidays coming up where we'd be heading to warmer environments. I thought, great opportunity. While I'm being inspired by people I'm seeing in the Northern Hemisphere, I will jump on and I will make some summery knits to take away with me. So the first one I made is the wave tee, which is by Petiteknit. It's in this really fun yarn, which is produced by Garn. It's called a cotton waves. It's kind of a thick and thin. Bring it a bit closer. It's a very simple top-down raglan knit on really big needles. I think I knit this on a 6mm needle. It is made with no ease, and it's quite cropped. So this one has actually ended up with my daughter. It was a bit too cropped for me. I did find on it the neckline was quite wide, so I have reinforced it with a round of crochet on the inside to sort of hold it together. I think I need to go back and fix up the armholes a bit, the holes around the arm there. And it has dropped a little bit with a bit of washing, but I think if I'm going to make this for myself, I will definitely be making it quite a lot longer than recommended. The next summer knit that I made, or tee, was the plain yoke 20 by Knit, or Rehkopf Samoa. And this is just a very simple top-down raglan. It's a great beginner's pattern. There are 2 versions, one that have short rows and then one without short rows, which would be ideal for a beginner. Very simple to knit. She actually has 3 versions of this design, all in different gauges. This is the biggest gauge in terms of it being 20 stitches. I think the others are 22 and 28. I really like this. I think the fit is very nice. I'm thinking about making another one in a dark brown color. For this one, I used Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the, I think it's the plum rose color, and I held it double. I ended up with about 4 inches of positive ease, which is great for a t-shirt. I did not want it as bulky or as oversized as some of the sweaters I've knit through the year. So I think this one was more successful and easier for me to pair with other items in my wardrobe. So those are my 2 summer knits. Watch this space. I might have casted on some new ones by the next time I do a whip update. And then I've just got a few accessories to share with you. So I made a few weekend hats, one by Petiteknit for my kids. It's just a very, very simple ribbed hat with a double folded brim. This one I just made in a blue merino that I picked up at the Bendigo show, the Australian Wool and Sheep show in July. Very, very quick knits. They would take me each less than a week. It's been worn a lot. It's been de-pilled quite a number of times. And the other one I made was in a woollier olive green yarn. If I can find it in the house, I will take a photo and insert it as well. So those were a great success. I have quite a few shawls that I did make. Some of them my own design, some of them are others. The first one I've done is one that has been on my bucket list knit list for a very, very long time, and that's the Satellite Shawl by Andrea Mowry. It is a delightful pattern. It gives you sort of an asymmetric triangle shaped shawl. Oh, I'm holding it the wrong way. As you can see here. It's got sections with 2 different colours, each section with this pale grey held throughout. There's stripes, there's short row sections, there's brioche sections, a really, really lovely knit, and a super soft shawl. I used a kit that I had purchased from La Bien-Aimée many, many years ago when the design came out, and have knit this one based on that. Just realized one of the shawls I have knit is not here, so I'm going to go grab it and I will be back with you. So the first shawl I knit in 2025 was a travel project, and it is this lovely Horizon shawl. I purchased this as a kit from Yarntopia last year and saved it for it to be a travel project. The design was in a Scandinavian language. I think it was in Norwegian. So I did a rough translation of it and then modified it a little bit, but stuck with the general idea. It's a yarn that's hand dyed by Gould, and what the kit contained was their undyed lambswool and then all these little mini skeins of embroidery style thread, and you just work through swapping those out as you follow the design, and it's a very lovely sort of rainbow of colours, but not being too bright or heavy. And I've worn this a lot. I really, really loved this one. So that was the first one I did, and then I think I did the Satellite Shawl, a little bit of secret design work in between, but then I moved on and I did a test knit for Orlane Sucche, which was the OCA shawl. And I knit this in the second half of the year. So I've spoken about this recently on one of my podcasts, but it's a lovely sort of asymmetric triangle shape. It's got really interesting construction, some simple lace textures that it takes you through. And I knit this, I think it's like a 16 stitch gauge. I knit it on 4.5mm needles using a locally dyed 4-ply Shetland yarn. And that was a lot of fun. The last shawl that I knit this year was one of my own designs, and that was the Hundreds and Thousands shawl, which is a smaller size shawl compared to some of the others, with an all over textured mini cable pattern. And I've knit this in a beautiful merino 4-ply singles yarn from the Wandering Flock, and held it with a Camarose fluffy yarn, lace weight fluffy yarn, which was lovely. The past year I only did one crochet project. So my one crochet project was quite a decent size, and that was this lovely blanket that I did for my daughter. I knit this one in Nutiden, held double. I think it was a 4.5mm hook. can't quite remember. It was a first half of the year project, and it just sits at the end of her bed and is nice, quite a nice size. It's not a double bed size, but almost. I'd love to make some more blankets in the new year. I have a few that I have found that I started a very, very long time ago and require a bit of work to get them finished. I think I'd really like to work through those over the course of the new year. I think the biggest achievement of the year was the publication of my first design, which was the Tales from the Cabin Shawl, which featured in Making Stories magazine, and I self-published that one a couple months ago. You can find the link for this design so you can see what other people have done with the pattern below. But yeah, I was very pleased to see this in publication. A really big moment for me to move from just being someone that knit other people's designs, which I love, to also seeing some of my own ideas come through into a pattern and seeing other people making them. That was a real highlight of my knitting year. So that's what I have knit over the past 12 months. I'd love to hear what some of your knitting highlights are as well, so please do share below. If you have any questions, pop them below as well, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to be back with you again soon in the new year to share some of my plans of what I would like to be knitting in 2026. Until then, happy knitting, keep well, keep safe, and enjoy this sort of quieter time of year now that the holidays have passed. Okay, bye.